And the top story, the former boss of MI5, Lord Evans, has warned that Britain's anti-terror laws are not fit for purpose and must be updated to give spies more powers to track suspects online. Well, let's get more on that story. Daniel Moore is an expert in cybersecurity at King's College London, joins me now in the studio. Very good evening to you.
Good evening.
So Lord Evans has said that it's now much harder than a decade ago to track down these terrorists because they are now discussing plots online. Is that the case in your view?
So it is very much the case, but I think we can expand that a little bit beyond what's been said so far. I think it extends beyond the social networks that we've been discussing as regards to these laws, and it extends far more into secure communication protocols, additional software that they're using, and even some attempts to develop their own indigenous software that they're using for that purpose as well.
So I guess you would argue, given that is the case, that our laws are out of date. We can't track them, given what we have to hand at the moment.
So that's actually a very interesting point, and I think we need to sort of step out a bit for that and look at the larger perspective when it comes to that sort of issue. And when we see how they communicate online, we actually see quite a few venues that they use for that purpose. One of these is what we're talking about, which is these social networks. And that includes Facebook and includes mobile applications as well. And that's very much handy when it comes to trying to access the wider population. But also we see some additional vectors for that, which sort of go beyond what we're seeing in social networks. That includes some attempts that they're doing to incorporate existing open software that uses higher end of encryption as well. And those laws actually do not extend to include that as well, and would need some extra means for that. And also, finally, we actually even see some attempts for them to develop their own encryption methods, but that requires quite a lot of expertise that are lacking right now.
Are they, in effect, outpacing the laws in this country because technology advances so quickly, and obviously it takes some time to get laws in place? As we've seen now, there's a whole revamp of our anti-terror laws, and a lot of politicians, including David Cameron, pushing for this so-called Snoopers Charter to allow the government intelligence agencies to look at people's mobile phone records, to access that kind of data. Do we need that, would you argue?
We might need some of it, but that's not the entire answer. Trying to attack this issue legally only results in some of the solution that we're looking for. Some of it actually extends beyond. I mean, we don't actually need to collect the entire scope of Facebook or WhatsApp or LinkedIn and all those networks that supposedly are incorporated into that law. Some of it can be resolved with some intelligence-driven research, with accessing some international cooperation that I think the international community is actually quite good at. And that would bring far better solutions than trying to do these catch-all laws that will always be outpaced by the adversary.
I think the fear, isn't it, from the intelligence community is that they can't track all of these people that they're concerned about. They literally do not have the manpower to do it. So we saw, for instance, in the Lee Rigby case, the awful murder of Fusilier Lee Rigby, that Facebook came in for some criticism because those involved in that murder had discussed it to some length online and they hadn't reported them. And this is the fear, isn't it, from other social networks, that they think, well, now they're going to be responsible. Can they be responsible? Can they possibly monitor all their communications? And now, as I said there, this sort of Snoopers Charter, mobile phone companies at the moment are not obliged to keep any records. Some in government would like them to do so. The Lib Dems don't want them to do so. Is that important, do you think, that these mobile phone companies do keep records of all our communications, of what we do online on our phones? Because if, for example, the security forces find somebody of interest, then they can track their wider network that way.
So that's the quintessential needle in a haystack, basically. But again, that's not the solution. As you imply, we don't have the manpower to go through all this data. There are some solutions in place to try to filter all that and see if we can find anything interesting. But for the most part, we're going to have to take a more pinpoint, direct, intelligent approach in order to sort of drum up these leads and then go specifically on those and start pulling on, these leads that will lead us further into the networks.
Do you think inevitably people will fall through the cracks?
They always do, at least to some extent.
OK, fascinating to talk to you, Daniel Moore. Thank you very much for your expertise.
Sure. Thank you.